Hi DrupalGov, I'm Brian Gilbert, the founder of Realityloop, a Melbourne-based Drupal development shop. I've worn many hats in my Drupal journey: module developer, core contributor, community lead, event organizer, trainer and more. Today I'll be playing the part of an interviewer. I have with me Stuart. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us what you'll be talking about?
Hi, I'm Stuart Clark. I'm the lead developer at Realityloop. I am a decoupled Drupal and Vue.js developer, and I'm the creator of DruxtJS. Today I'm going to show you how to decouple Drupal using Nuxt.js and the Druxt Site module.
But before we get into that, could you quickly cover off what decoupling is?
Decoupling is the process of separating your presentation layer or your front end from your content management system, your backend, in this case, Drupal.
Okay, so using Drupal more as a content repository.
Yeah.
And why would I want to do that?
You might want to do it for multiple reasons. I think one of the most important reasons is that your content can power more than a single site. You can have your public website, but in addition to that, you may have an intranet and multiple campaign sites, native applications, voice assistants, the theming experience. PHP is a great language, but front-end development and developers tend to prefer a JavaScript-based language for the reactivity, and component-based languages like Vue.js.
So decoupling gives us more options and allows developers to work the way they prefer, making it easier to find developers. Why isn't everyone decoupling?
There are valid reasons why not to do it, and I think one of those is the complexity. When we first started decoupling our websites, there was a lot that had to be reinvented. That's also where DruxtJS comes in.
How would we go about decoupling with Drupal?
It's relatively simple. Both Drupal 8 and 9 come with the JSON API module, which does the majority of the work. We're also going to be using the JSON API views module and the DruxtJS module, which simplifies some of the setup process. The Druxt module also provides a read-only permission that allows you to control who has access to all of the required JSON API resources.
What does the JSON API module give us?
The JSON API module provides a way for a front end or a JSON API client to consume the site's content as well as some configuration in a standardized format.
What do we have to do to start on our front end?
For the front end, we're going to use Nuxt. Much like Drupal is a PHP framework for your backend, Nuxt provides you with all the things that you want for a modern Vue.js site.
Why are you installing Druxt Site here?
Druxt is a modular framework. It allows us to build lots of things using Drupal's content and Drupal's configuration. Druxt Site is more focused. It's about providing that out-of-the-box front-end experience. So I'll jump into the configuration. If we open up the Nuxt config file, all I need to do is add the Druxt Site module and our Druxt configuration, which is just the base URL, the domain for our backend. We'll also go ahead and set up the Nuxt proxy so that our images will work correctly. And lastly, I just need to set the components directory to global for Druxt's theming system. And that's it. I'll spin that up and we can take a look here at our Nuxt application, and that's building the bundles required to serve up our front end.
And where's this page come from?
If we just jump across, you can see here is the index page, and that's being served via Nuxt, not via Drupal.
So we could create files here if we wanted to have one-off campaigns or standalone applications that are alongside the site.
Yeah, this demo here, we don't need that, so we'll just go ahead and delete that.
And now we can see content from the Drupal backend. Could you explain what's going on internally?
I think the best way to do that is if I open up the Vue developer tool. We have a layout provided by Nuxt, its layout system, which allows us to wrap the entire application with the required markup.
So it's kind of like page TPL in Drupal.
Yeah, If we step through, we can then see our Druxt router component. It communicates with the decoupled router in the backend to determine what this particular page should be rendering. So in this case, we're rendering the front page view, and you can see here in Drupal's backend, this is the view. We're actually now passing on to a Druxt view component, which has got access to all of the results for that view.
Do we also get the view header and attachments?
Yeah, so that information is provided in the view resource.
Okay, so how do we theme that?
Theming in Druxt is relatively straightforward. It uses a slot-based theming system, so we can just take one of these available options and drop that into the components directory. And then we render out our slot, and that's the content provided by the Druxt view component. It also has name slots, so we can render out the header and the results separately. The Druxt components also have a wrapper property, which here allows us to set the component, prop starter, and the class that wrap our result entities.
I see these items are entities coming back from the view. What's defining the display here?
Druxt leverages Drupal's own display system. If we have a look at the back end here, you can see
it only shows the image.
Yeah, exactly. You can make changes in your back end, and Druxt will respect that.
That's great, but what if I just wanted to add it in the component?
The parent component also provides prop starter, in this case, entity fields and schema. We simply need to register the required props in our component, and then we can reference it in our Vue.js expressions.
You mentioned campaigns earlier. Could we see an example?
Sure. This is a campaign I set up on our Umami demo site. To get started, you just need to create a file in the Nuxt pages directory.
What are those B tags you're using here?
They are layout components from the Nuxt Bootstrap View module, but you can build this any way you like. Any NPM library can be used. The Vue YouTube component, for instance, which I could have used in this demo, but instead I used the embed code.
So does that mean it's possible to use Druxt components in a page?
Yes, absolutely. All Druxt modules can be used via the Druxt component itself. It just needs the module name and the correct properties, which we can find in a few different ways. One way is to use the Vue developer tools, as I've done here. Alternatively, you can read the output of the JSON API directly.
Earlier you mentioned using Drupal content in other applications. Do you have anything you can show?
This is an example Entity Explorer app, which allows us to see all of our content in any chosen view mode. We designed it to help with the process of populating the campaign page, also as a way to test and demonstrate our theming changes against live data. You can have a look at the source code for this in the Umami demo repository on GitHub.
It looks like Druxt is pretty mature already. What's the status and current roadmap?
There's still a lot to be done. Our target for a 1.0 release is a feature parity with the Drupal Umami demo. But to get there, we need to engage with the communities, backend and frontend alike, which is part of the reason for this presentation.
And what sort of contributions are you looking for?
All contributions are welcome, of course. The more eyes on the project, the better it becomes for everyone. Documentation, testing, feature requests, support queries help a lot, as do pull requests. The project is open source, and while Realityloop is currently funding my development time, there will be a point where the project will also be looking at options for funding.
And that leads on to how can someone actually get involved?
You can find the code and issue queues on GitHub, and for support and general inquiries, you can find us on the community Discord server. We're also available in the Drupal Slack.
Thanks for your time, Stuart. Let's cut to questions now.